the Premier League has now decided to introduce a spending cap into the league, and this came after 19 clubs voted on this, 16 agreed and wanted to put it in, and then there were 3 teams, the higher teams that have a lot more money, that didn't want to and they voted to reject it, and then there was 1 club that just didn't vote at all. So this will be put in place from the 2025 to 2026 season. So not next season, it'll be the season after that this actually goes into place, because they've got to finalise a load of things and the actual board of the Premier League have to decide on exactly how this is going to work. So not next season, the season after. Currently, the Premier League clubs can have a loss of 105 million over 3 years, and this spending cap will basically get rid of that. They'll only be able to spend a certain amount of money on player wages each year, and this, the previous system was meant to maintain competition by preventing, first of all, unfair advantages, because then obviously teams can't just go and lose a load of money each year and spend loads of money on players and then obviously get it back and whatever. And the problem is this season has shown that has not been the case, because obviously there's been points deductions for breach of financial rules. Nottingham Forest were the latest one, Everton were the first one. They've been handed points deductions. Those are at the moment under appeal, so we don't know how those will pan out in the end. And there have been other teams like Manchester City have their 115 charges, and I think teams like Aston Villa also have been out there as maybe they're breaching the rules, but there haven't really been any investigations for them either. So obviously multiple clubs have been under investigation, plus I think there's a few championship clubs that have been put in there as well. So it's not a very good look for really English football as a whole. So really this change kind of had to come. They had to look over this and see if there was anywhere that they could really change the system to make it better. So the background to all of this, first of all, was that in February, the Premier League was warned that a failure to agree with the Football League on a new deal would mean that there would be a new agreement being imposed on them. So they wouldn't, I'm pretty sure that means that they wouldn't be able to create their own system, and it would be kind of imposed on them for them. And this ended up in the following month, the Premier League and the Football League actually failed to come to an agreement. So that's why the Premier League kind of had this vote between all of the clubs, because they failed to come to an agreement with the Football League, so they needed to come up with their own system quickly before it was actually imposed on them. And yeah, the Premier League has now said that the clubs have agreed to a new financial system, obviously like I said earlier, with 16 voting for, 3 voting against and 1 not voting at all. So at the moment we know that the clubs that are not in Europe will be able to spend 85% of their club revenue, a maximum of 85% of their club revenue on wages and things like that. And then the clubs in Europe will only be able to, I say only, but they'll only be able to spend 70% of their club revenue on it. Now the Premier League has developed a new spending cap model. I do think that it will kind of depend on how this works out. It will be interesting to see now, especially that they've come up with the percentages. And I do like that clubs in Europe can only spend 70%, and then the clubs not in Europe can spend a maximum of 85%. I do think that is a very, very interesting way to go about it, and I'm glad that they didn't just go and copy the way the Americans do things like this, and I'm glad they didn't call it a salary cap as well, because I don't think that would really work in football, because you've got more than one league and everything like that, and a salary cap is only really meant for one league as well. So overall, we will have to see if this system really works, and I do think it will take a bit of time to see if it works or not, because looking at those percentages, they may have to move those percentages around as well, that 85% and 70%, because a lot of the time with things like this, what you've got to remember is it's new to the league, it's new to the people coming up with this, and I do think that they will probably end up looking at the percentages and reviewing the percentages each year to see if it's to see if the system is a lot more balanced, and to see if the richer clubs are just getting away with spending a lot more, which really is what they don't want, because they want the league to be more balance. They don't want it to be perfect. They probably don't want it to be perfectly balanced, but they want it to be more balanced, so the richer teams aren't just running away with everything. And like I said, these types of systems will take a while to actually figure out. Plus, these types of financial systems are more long term as well, so that's another reason why it will take a while for the Premier League to 100% figure this out. I mean, they might be lucky, they might have hit the perfect system, they might have got this perfectly done straight away. I doubt it, because systems like this are very, very complicated, and you do need to look over what is happening and see what's good, see what's bad, and see how you can change it, obviously for the better. And like I've said before in previous videos, this all depends on how this is implemented as well, because obviously, like I said before, this is all about actually holding the clubs accountable. So if a club who is in Europe spends over 70%, then they need to be punished, and if they aren't punished, then obviously this hasn't been implemented very well. So it's also up to the Premier League to actually hold clubs accountable to the rules that they have set. So I think it'll be interesting to see what certain clubs do as well, because some clubs will have to sell a lot of players to get their wages down, plus you're going to see a lot more kind of different tactics used as well. And another good thing is clubs that do spend a lot on revenue, they might have to start using their youth teams more, and then we'll be seeing more up and coming young players from England being put into squads and being given better chances, and then obviously that gives a bigger chance for English players to actually come through the clubs like they used to. Obviously teams might find a way around that, but I think it'll be interesting to see if that does happen. And the last thing really, all of this depends on what the overall goal of the Premier League is. Is it to just help the league be more balanced? I hope so. And yeah, overall I do think this has a chance to work, because having the percentage of revenue being spent, I do think that is the best way to go about this. It just now depends on, obviously, like I said for the 500th time, how it's implemented and how the Premier League change it and all that. They might just keep it how it is. Like I said, it might be the perfect system that they found. I highly doubt it, but I do think it is the best way that they could have gone about this, and I'm glad that the Premier League clubs voted in favour of this, so they can at least give this a chance, and if it doesn't work they can go back to their old model. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this new spending cap, plus outlining what we know at the moment about the spending cap. If you like the video, drop a like, and if you did like this video as well, consider subscribing. Go check out the other videos on the channel as well. I upload on this channel weekly, and yeah, thank you for listening, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.